Hari Om, everybody. Last time we looked at a very important verse number 14. Matra sparshas tu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkha daha agama paino nityaha tan stitikshasva bharata. Hey Bharata and Kaunteya, belonging to two exalted dynasties, please understand that there will be an experience when the sense organs come in contact with the sense objects. It is natural that the sense organs come in contact with the objects, and then once the contact happens, it is very natural that there will be an experience. That experience will depend on the object and also on the situation around. So, an object, a cup of tea, which gives me happiness, which gives me pleasure, which gives me joy in the winter, will not be able to give me that same joy in the summer. So, the object is outside, and the example Bhagwan has used is heat cold, but I told you it includes all the pairs of opposites. That those pairs of opposites are outside, the experience that is happening is within, joy and sorrow. Okay, and as per the circumstances outside and the objects outside, the experiences within me are changing as well. Also, I find, just experience, it's my experience, not that Shastra has to tell me, that there are some objects which give me pleasure, but then they do not give pleasure to somebody else. So everything is uncertain. Which object will give me what pleasure at what time is extremely uncertain, because it depends also on my mental state. Maybe there is an object which gives me extreme pleasure, but now I have heard something which has disturbed my mind very much. That same object which gives me pleasure when my mind is calm, when my mind is disturbed, I will not want that object because my mind is very disturbed. So for something which is so impermanent, actually, which is permanently impermanent, what the objects are going on changing. The world is changing constantly. It is matter. Matter will change constantly. So for something which is changing constantly, for me to be permanently miserable, does it make sense? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. That's why Bhagwan says, Tan titiksha, have titiksha, endure. So at one level, we must endure through, like, just knowing experiences. Yes, that's right, I was sorrowful, but then, now I don't feel as sorrowful. Or I was very happy when something happened in my life, but 10 years down the road, I don't get the same kind of happiness. So one is a maturity of the mind. So a person can mature and then realize that this is all agama paina. It's coming and going. Let me do it. As a spiritual seeker, through knowledge, not through helplessness, but through knowledge that all this, if it is changing, it is asat. Whatever is changing is false, because today it is there, tomorrow it is not there. Day after tomorrow, it will be there again. And the day after, it won't be there again. So with these changing things, this is false. Why should I get disturbed? So rather than endure, for spiritual seekers, enjoy. And then for the realized master, he actually is established in the fact that all this is false. So body itself is false, mind itself is false. So whatever is being experienced by the body or the mind, how can that be true? So there is he doesn't even feel that there is an object which is giving me joy or sorrow. That is why we see Bhagwan Raman Maharshi undergoing surgery without anesthesia. We cannot do it. Do not even attempt. Okay? Because he was a realized master, he was a yogi. He said, I don't need anesthesia because you're going to operate on my body, and that body has got nothing to do with me. So you can go do whatever to my body. It doesn't matter to me. I will not be affected. And he was not affected. Okay? So this is why this is. Now, one more point that here we should know is the object outside it changes. The joy and sorrow, like one object gives me joy and some other object gives somebody else joy, the object may change, it will change. The joy and sorrow that is experienced within me is exactly the same joy in everybody else. That point has to be understood. So or any emotion, you know, joy, sorrow, anger. Like I get angry and say a dog gets angry. The anger is the same. The response to that anger is different. So the dog will bark. If he's angry, he will bark. Whereas I, depending on my level of maturity, I could also bark, I could also shout, or I could keep quiet, or I could diffuse that anger. But that feeling, that anger itself is the same. Therefore, joy and sorrow inside is the same that is felt by everybody. Understand that. Okay, but different objects will create different type of experience for different people. And this Bhagwan is saying in this verse, this has to be endured. The question arises, why should I endure? What is the point? Why not complain about it? Complain and whatever, make a big deal. Or if I'm happy, then why can't I tell 100 people? Why can't I, jump up and down? Why shouldn't I? That is the question that arises. So what he says is, the one who bears this, he alone becomes capable of immortality. This is what he says. Yam hina vyathayante te purusham purusharshabha sama dukkha sukham dhiram so saha amrutatvaya kalpate. Saha, he, the one who is sama, is in dukkha and sukha. He is equanimous in joy and sorrow. And the reason that he becomes qualified for immortality, for liberation, is because that way he's keeping his mind quiet, and quiet, peaceful, calm. And in that calm mind alone can knowledge arise. Knowledge cannot arise in a mind which is agitated. And if this person cannot accept the changes in matter and deal with them, then his mind is going to be constantly agitated. And if it is going to be agitated, he cannot get the knowledge, because immortality is only through knowledge. It is not through action. An agitated mind can act. Acting can be done. Whatever action can be done. But knowledge cannot be acquired in an agitated mind. And that's why he refers to Arjuna as Purusharshabha. Rishabha, you're a strong man, strong physically, strong mentally. More important, mental strength is required. Now here we were on this one saying, how exactly can I endure? And I told you there are two methods. One is sheer willpower. And we see that willpower when we decide to do a fast. Now Navratri is going on. I was just talking to a friend. So there is certain things that she doesn't eat throughout the day, and by willpower you can do it. So if you develop a strong willpower, and willpower is in the mind, so basically a strong mind, a purified mind, you'll be able to bear the vicissitudes of life. Like I told you, Gurudev has given the example of a lighthouse. So if you're like a lighthouse standing firm in that ocean, no matter how many waves hit against you, you will stand firm. Now, how do I get this firmness? Is by abiding in the self. Why in the self? Because the self is the only changeless entity in this whole thing. Everything else is shaking. Now you hold on to a log of wood, that log of wood is shaking constantly. So we hold on to, what we hold on to? We hold on to our family, we hold on to our money, we hold on to our bank balance, we hold on to everything which is impermanent. Now all that is impermanent. So you're holding on to something which is impermanent. It is shaking constantly. It is matter. It is changing. So you hold on to the self. That is the only one. Stay firm in your faith in the self. And how do I stay firm in the self? By discipline. So a self-imposed self-discipline is extremely necessary for a spiritual seeker. And I told you, don't look at somebody else's discipline, what they are doing, and then do. No. You look at your own life. You have little children, or you have a job, or you have teenage children, or you have whatever is your stage in life, whatever is in that you get into any discipline, some sort of a discipline, and then stick with it. Stick with it, because this is a very, very important quality for a spiritual seeker. So if you want to reach that immortality, amritatvaya, amrita, then these are the steps. Shreya, Preya, Vivek is another thing that also will give you discipline. Like the path of the good and the path of the pleasant. So, you know, there are things that we want to do which are very pleasing, but think, is this good for me? And if it is not good for me, then you have to you have to have the ability to drop it. That's why then suddenly this is not possible. So we give you the 80-20 rule. At least 80% of the time, follow discipline. 20% let the mind go. You'll come to a stage where the mind itself will not allow you to stray from your discipline. You train the mind. Mind can be trained. Please understand, we are not the mind. That's why the mind can be trained. So today my mind is, you know, not under my control, and I want to do things which are pleasing to me and my senses, etc. But slowly, slowly you can tame the mind and then bring it under your own control, wherein it will itself tell you, don't do that, it's not good for you. It will. That stage will come, but you have to practice. Okay. All right. So far, so good. Next verse. Next verse, I told you, there are many key verses. This verse number 16, extremely important. The importance of this verse is not only in this chapter, it is in this entire Bhagavad Gita. It is for the entire Advaitic philosophy, the entire Vedantic philosophy. Advaita Vedanta philosophy is based, this is the basis of the entire, so imagine how important this verse is. So we have to understand this very, very clearly. So I'll go about it very slowly and try to explain it to you in a very simple matter. There are some people here, I know, who will understand it, who will grasp it very quickly. It's not difficult. It's kind of old wine in new bottle. Okay, so there are some people I know who will grasp it, but there are some people whom this could be a little bit, but this is extremely, extremely, extremely important verse. So please listen carefully. Na sato vidyate bhavaha, na bhavo vidyate satah, ubhayorapi drishtontaha, anayostattvadarshibhihi. The unreal has no being. There is no non-being of the real. It's a tongue twister. The truth about both these has been seen by the knowers of the truth or the seers of the essence. So line 1, in my notes, I have translated it a little bit easier, it might be. The line 1 goes, of the unreal, asat, false. So of the unreal slash asat slash false, existence is not. Of the unreal slash asat slash false, existence is not. Of the real slash sat slash true, non-existence is not. Of the unreal asat false, existence is not. Of the real sat true, non-existence is not. This is line 1. Line 2 is, of the two, the conclusive understanding is seen by the men of knowledge, tattva darshabhihi, wise men, dhira purushaha. Another translation of this same verse, that which is not is not. Even simple. That which is not is not. That which is. Firm. The one who has this firm understanding, what is not, what is a tattva darshibhihi. Tattva darshibhihi, we start with this word, realized master. So it's the synonym for panditaha that we have heard, dhira purushaha, sthita prajna, manishinaha will come. All these words are tattva darshibhi, the one who has seen the tattva, the essence, and seeing again, not through the eyes, but through an understanding of the intellect. So that person knows what is, what is not, is not. So what is sat, what is asat, is asat. So the key words here, as we can see, is sat and asat. And that's why we need to understand these two words very, very well. Understand. Okay. Now, when we say understand, it is knowledge. And when we have to know something, what becomes very important is the means of knowledge. The means of knowledge, Sanskrit word is pramana. So to know something, the pramana, the means of knowledge has to be correct. Example, if I want to study astronomy, if I want to study the stars, what I need is a telescope would be a correct means of knowledge, whereas a microscope would be a wrong means of knowledge. So if I'm going to try and study the stars with a microscope, the knowledge that I will get, will it be correct or will it be wrong? It has to be wrong. Why? That stars are there, that is correct. But the means that I am using to look at the stars is incorrect. So if I use the incorrect means, the wrong means to know something, then I will not get a correct understanding of that thing. So far, so good? All right. Now, let's come to ourselves. So there is the sky. I look at the sky, or even before that, let's go to another example. So what is giving us knowledge is the senses, right? There are only 5 sense organs. We have studied this, which are giving us knowledge of the 5 different objects in the world. Each one has its particular field. So eyes, color and form, nose, smell, etc., etc. Now, if there is a slice of pizza that I want to see if it is good or bad, I look at it, I smell it, and can I then say that, oh, that's very, very nice pizza? Or would I have to eat it before I can give a judgment, make a judgment call? I have to eat. If something has to be tasted, if it is a food item, then my eyes can tell me how beautiful decoration it is and how well presented it is. And my nose is telling me that, oh, the smell, oh man, delicious smell is, flowing out. But can those means be considered as the correct means of deciding what the taste of that pizza is? No. Anybody saying yes? You can decide. No, no, you can't. So the correct means of knowledge to taste an item is only and only the tongue. You can see it, you can smell it, maybe you can hear it, I don't know. But that is not the correct means of knowledge. This is very important that we understand these means of knowledge, because to understand Sat and Asat, what means are we going to use? That's why this introduction is to be given. Okay, so in case of a food item, between my senses, the tongue becomes the primary source of knowledge for a food item. So all the senses are giving me knowledge, but then there is a primary source of knowledge and a secondary source of knowledge. So the eyes and the nose are a secondary source of knowledge for pizza, for a slice of pizza, but my tongue is the primary source. Okay, one more example. I look out of the sky and it's a beautiful blue sky outside. That's what my eyes are telling me. And a child might think, yes, but then what is my intellect telling me? There is no sky, Jaya, let alone it being blue. Agree? Agree? I'm seeing the sky. I'm seeing a sunrise. I'm in Angkor Wat. I'm seeing the sunrise. The sun is literally, I can see the movement of the sun, but my intellect is telling me, no, 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 Jaya, the sun is not moving. So who am I going to believe? Question is, who am I going to believe? Am I going to believe my eyes who are actually seeing the movement of the sun? Am I going to believe my eyes which are actually seeing a very, very beautiful, bright blue sky? Or am I going to believe my intellect where the scientists have said that there is actually no sky, the sun doesn't move, it is stationary. So what do I believe? So in the case of the senses and the intellect, the senses become it is called as Durbala Praman and Sabala Praman. Bala is strength. So Sabala means strong. So there is a strong means of knowledge and there is a weaker means of knowledge. That is to be understood. So in the senses itself, if I have to taste a food item, the tongue becomes the stronger sense of knowledge other than the eyes and the nose. But between the senses and the intellect becomes the stronger means of knowledge rather than the senses. Even though the eyes are actually seeing the blue sky, actually seeing the sun moving on the horizon, the intellect is saying, no, that is not true. So far, so good?
Thank you.
Okay. So,
thank you.
Is somebody saying something?
Okay. No, I think it was some background noise. I muted her.
Okay. So the point is that there are these two types of means, a strong means and a weaker means. When we have to understand something correctly, here I told you we are in jnana, we are not in bhakti. There is no superimposition. This is Vastu Tantra. We have to know this Sat as it is. So if I have to know something as it is, in its essence, I have to have the correct means of knowledge. That is the first step. If I'm going to look at a thing with the wrong means of knowledge, the knowledge I will get, but that knowledge will not be correct. Okay? Because we're looking for correct knowledge. So if we want correct knowledge, then correct means have to be used. And in the means, there are strong and weak. So we have to believe, we have to have faith in the strong means of knowledge, not in the weak means of knowledge. So far, so good? All right. So now let's go. What is Sat? So let me tell you a story. Begin with a story. I love stories. So there was this man, this person who had inherited a lot of wealth from his parents. Great. So he was very happy. He had a lot of money, a lot of wealth, but then you know what? He squandered it all. And ultimately there was no money left in the bank. There was nothing. So then his attention went to his altar. He went to his puja room and he realized that his parents had left him these idols of Sri Ram, Sita ji, Lakshman and Hanuman ji, all made out of gold. They were all made out of gold. So he had no money at all. He was desperate and he said, I can get money by selling these idols now, because now it has come to that stage, you know. So he sat in the puja room and he thought, who should I sell first? Then he had a thought, Hanumanji is only a servant, na? See, that is Ram Parivar, family is what Ram, Sita and Lakshman. This Hanuman is only servant. So I think servant should go first. Okay, fine. So he takes the servant, goes to the goldsmith, gives him the servant, gives him Hanumanji. He says, I want money. Oh, yeah, sure. So he does his own calculation. The goldsmith is doing his own calculation. This guy is not worried about all that calculation. He just wants money. He takes his money, he comes back. Of course, he's a squanderer. So he squanders off that money, and now that money is also gone. Now he goes and again sits in the altar because that's the only property that is left. So he's sitting in the altar and saying, now what should I do? Now what? He said, when I sold the servant, I got N number of dollars, X number of dollars, right? I think I'll just straight go for the master now. So I'll get more money, you know? Sri Ram, straight, not Lakshman and Sita ji and all. No. Ram is the head of the family. So if I can get so much money for the servant, why can't I will actually get more money for the master. So he takes Sri Ram, goes to the same goldsmith, says, I want money. And the goldsmith does again his own calculation, whatever it is. This guy is not bothered. And he offers him money, and lo and behold, the man is totally surprised, and it's less money than Hanumanji. What he got for Hanumanji, he said, are you kidding me? He said, I gave you the servant and you gave me so many dollars. And now I'm giving you the master himself. And now you're giving me less money? And the goldsmith says, sir, the amount of gold in Hanumanji was much greater than the amount of gold in Sri Ram. And the value is for the gold. So the means of knowledge that the goldsmith is using is totally different, whereas this guy is looking at the form. And looking at the form, he is saying that Hanumanji is the servant, Ramji is the master. I should get more if I sell the master. How can I get more by from the servant by selling the servant. How do I get more money? By selling the servant as opposed to the master. The goldsmith is using his intellect. He is not looking at the form. He is looking at the essence. The essence of those idols is the gold. And there is more gold in Hanumanji. And therefore, this man got more money for the gold. So which one is Sat and which is Asat here? The Sat is the gold. The Asat is the form. Clear? Any doubt? Why is the form Asat? Because what has the goldsmith done? The minute he bought Hanumanji, he melted Hanumanji and he made ornaments out of it. So today there was Hanumanji, tomorrow there are ornaments, the third day somebody else will come and make something else out of it. So the form changed, the name changed along with it. What changes is Asat. What remains permanently is Sat. Okay? All right. In Matra Sparshastu, just going back a little bit, what the heat and cold, I told you, changes. Right? The pairs of opposites outside are changing. So that's why they are Asat. Now, what is Sat in that heat and cold? That is to be understood. What is Sat is the substratum which is supporting both heat and cold. And what is that substratum? That substratum is I, is me. I'll give you an example for this one, but keep this in mind. How do I say that I am the substratum? Because I am the one that is saying that this is hot and this is cold. Who is saying that? Who is saying this is hot? Who is saying this is cold? Or who is saying that this hot cup of tea is giving me pleasure? And who is saying that this hot cup of tea is now not giving me pleasure? Who is saying that? It is I, right? I have that cup of tea in the winter. It's giving me great pleasure. The same cup of tea is being given to me only. I only am drinking that same cup of tea, but now it is summer. So it is not giving me pleasure. So I am the one that is supporting the joy in the winter and the sorrow in the summer. Therefore, I am what is Sat. Heat and cold are Asat. This is the vision of the realized master. So he says that the Sat is unchanging and this thing is changing. So what is, it is not there. And what is this verse saying? That what is Asat is never there. It was never there. It is not there even now. But this has to be understood by the correct means of knowledge. That's why we tell you about the means first. Let me go to an example. So there is a pot or a gold chain or a gold ornament, either one you can take. When I see the pot and I say it's very, very real, but if wherever I touch that pot, okay, let's try an ornament. So there is a ring, a gold ring. No matter where I am touching this ring, what exactly am I touching? No matter where I touch it, how I touch it, where I wear it, it is gold alone. No matter where I touch it, right? Like a pot. A pot will be there, and no matter where I touch that pot, what I'm touching is clay. It is a pot today, or it is a ring today. Tomorrow it could be a bangle, it could be a chain, it could, from a pot, it could go to a vase, it could go to a ball, I don't know, whatever that is made. So there, what is not changing, what is the substratum of all those forms is clay. The substratum of all the ornaments is gold, and therefore clay is Sat, pot is Asat, gold is Sat, ornament is Asat. And what is the verse saying? That which is Asat never is. That which is not is not. It's not there. You are only looking at it today. It was not there yesterday. It may not be there tomorrow. So far, so good. Any difficulty understanding? Let's take another aspect of this.
Jayaji,
Yes.
In that example where you said heat and cold, we feel, and I feel that, correct? So which is that I? The ego or the self,
It
Asat?
it is
Sat.
actually the ego, but is the ego true?
Okay.
Go even
Right.
more deeper.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Sat, remember, Sat, we are talking, when this verse is talking about Sat as the pure consciousness, not as the ego.
Okay.
This is pure conscious. Sat is, because ego is Asat. Ego is Asat. Because why? Ego is changing now. That is so very easy. Right
Right.
now, I'm a
Yeah.
speaker. My ego is speaker. After that, I will be whatever, walker, eater, cook, whatever.
Yeah.
Ego is changing every minute. Ego is changing.
Got
Right?
it.
So it
Thank
cannot
you.
be Sat. Because what is Sat is. What is. Firm, firm, firm. That's why we have to have that firm abidance in that. Therefore, we have to correctly understand, because unless we correctly understand this, we will never remain firm in that. Okay, so next example. So when we saw was a pot, what the substratum of heat and cold is me, myself. The substratum of pot and vase and whatever is the clay. Substratum of all the ornaments is gold. So gold is Sat, clay is Sat, okay? But these are examples also. So don't think that gold and clay are the pure consciousness. Please, all examples are limited. We cannot give examples for Brahman, but these are the examples. Now, that which is not available to me before a certain period of time. So before birth and after death, in our case. Now, the or go to the example. This is a ring. It is available to me today, but yesterday this wasn't a ring. This was maybe just a lump of gold. And tomorrow I might decide I don't like this ring and I'm going to now make it into something else. So it was not available to me yesterday. It is available to me today, and tomorrow it may not be available to me. So what is not available yesterday, what may not be available tomorrow is Asat. What is available in all three periods of time is Sat. So yesterday also it was a lump of gold. Today it is gold in the form of a ring. Tomorrow it will be gold only in the form of a chain. So the chain and the ring are Asat. The gold is Sat. In our case, this body was not available before birth. It will not be available after death. And that's why the body is Asat. And same goes for the mind and intellect. The body is Asat. Now back to Matra Sparshastu. Body itself is Asat. Now the body is experiencing heat. How can that experience be real? How can it be real? What is experiencing is also unreal. What is being experienced is also unreal. It's all Asat. Knowing that, the realized master bears it. That's what I told you, Bhagavan Raman Maharshi. For him, the body itself was false. So whatever you do to that body, what does it matter? It doesn't matter. For us, to understand, dream. Look at the dream experience. So whatever is happening in the dream, afterwards I come to know it is false. But even though it was falsified after I wake up, while it was actually feeling very, very real, it was false only. That's why it says, what is false always. That point has to be very clearly, that it is not like the dream was true when it was happening. It was very, very true and I was afraid. And now I woke up and now it went false. No, 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 no. Even when you were afraid in the dream was false. Your fear was false. Only now you have come to know that it is false. So for a spiritual seeker, we have to know this. And for a realized master, he is already established in that fact. What is, what is not. Okay, so what is available before birth, what is available after death, that is Sat. What goes, therefore in between also it is false. Therefore this body is false even now. Even now when I'm speaking and I feel that this body is very real and I feel like I'm speaking, it is Asat. But understand it in the right way. Okay, because this body may not be available tomorrow. All right, next, go further. So the Buddhist, this is Bhagavan. I mean, I can, this much explanation I can give and move on to the next one. But in the Bhashya, Bhagavan Shankaracharya, like in his Bhashya, always he will, not imagines, these are the questions that were put to him. So now if there is a Buddhist Kshanik Vadan, which I've already told you before also, it's negated. But even in this case, so what the Buddhic Kshanik Vadan says is that why you say that asat changes and whatever remains, sat always remains. This is what we are saying. What we are saying, the pot or the ring can become chain, but the gold is always remaining. What the Buddhist Kshanik Vadan say, that okay, asat changes, we agree, but we also say that when asat dies, sat also dies. That's what we are saying. They're saying they have their own logic. So that is what they are saying. So there, Bhagavan Shankaracharya, this is how he explains it, and he gives an example of ghata. Pata is very, very common. Everywhere they will say ghata and pata. Ghata is pot and pata is cloth. Okay, so ghata pata examples are very, very common. Ghata pata and hasti. This is the examples that is used for this verse. So I'll use the same ones. Ghata pot, pata cloth, hasti elephant. Okay, so he says that, or the other argument is when the so before this, one argument is there. What is being said also is that in every thought there are two experiences. There are two experiences, or there are two knowledges. Understand it this way. This is a little bit subtle, but we'll understand it. So there is a knowledge of the pot. So if I'm looking at a pot, there is a knowledge of the pot, and then there is a knowledge of isness. Why is there? Because what will I say? There is a pot, right? See, we don't think of it like this. We just say there's a pot, there's a computer, there's a this, there is a that, there is me, we say. But if you analyze this sentence, there are two things here. Pot is there as the object and its isness is there. Pot is there, there is a pot, this is a pot. So this pot buddhi changes. Why? Because today I'm saying that there is a pot. Tomorrow suddenly somebody has made that pot into a vase, and then tomorrow I'm saying there is a vase. So that where the buddhi changes is asat. There where the intellect does not change, does not fluctuate, is sat. So let's take this example I've given before. There is a tree. This is why, see, there was a foreigner who had gone to Sandipani, our ashram in Mumbai, and Gurudev was there, and he looked at a tree and he said, what he meant, what fruit is that? Like mango tree, I think it was. We have a lot of mango trees there. So he was looking out of the room and he said, Gurudev, what tree is that? And the answer that he expected was, oh, it's a mango tree, it's an apple tree, it's a this, that tree. Gurudev replied, it is existence in the form of a tree. So what is sat in there is existence. That's where the realized master always, his attention is on that substratum all the time. So when he looks at a form, the thought that comes to his mind is existence in the form of a computer, existence in the form of a tree, existence in the form of a chair. So the buddhi is not changing about the existence, because it is the chair is, the computer is, the tree is. So the buddhi is changing with the computer, the tree, the whatever, and the isness is remaining the same. So what is being said in this verse is that where your buddhi is changing is asat, and where the buddhi is not changing is sat. So we say there is a tree, then I cut the tree, then I say there is a branch, then I burn the branch, then I say there is ash, then I submerge the ash into water. and there is water. So from tree, it has gone to branch, it has gone to ash. This buddhi, my intellect, is first telling me there is a tree, then it's telling me there is a branch, then it's telling me there is ash, and then it is telling me there is water. So tree, branch, ash, water, buddhi changed, but what didn't change is isness. There is a tree, there is branch, there is ash, there is a water. That isness, that buddhi, which does not change, is sat buddhi. And that buddhi which changes is asat buddhi. Because here what is saying, of the real existence is not, of the unreal existence is not. So this asat buddhi, there was no existence to that tree at all. Form, the form. The form had no existence. It is asat. This is the whole basis of Advaita. Because if I say that the tree is real, that means there is a tree which is real, and then there is God which is real too. And we cannot have two realities. Right now, I think that the tree is, I think that the body is real. I think. And I think I'm extremely intelligent. And I know. And this body feels. That's why we are giving you the definition of what is Sat. Sat is that which is available in the 3 periods of time. Was this body available before my birth? Will it be available after my death? It will not. And so in between also it is false. Don't think that today it is real. Okay, before birth it was not real. After death it won't be real. Today it is very real. This is what we feel. It's not real even today. So Bhagwan Shankaracharya is telling this Buddhist Kshanikvadan that no, even though the Asat Buddhi is changing, the Sat Buddhi always remains. And there he gives the example, this is pot, this is cloth, this is elephant. So this pot Buddhi went to cloth Buddhi, went to elephant Buddhi, because you know my eyes are say these 3 things are there and my eyes are shifting. I say, oh, this is a pot, this is a cloth, this is an elephant. So my Buddhi about these objects has changed, but what has not changed is the isn't. It is a pot. There is a pot, there is a cloth, there is an elephant. So that is Buddhi, that is Sat Buddhi, that has not changed. Isness is not different because the pot changed to cloth, changed to elephant. Isness did not change. And that's what I told you. The object changes, but the joy is the same. In every person, the joy that is felt is the same. Sorrow that is felt is the same. Though it is false. It is false. But it is the same. So this isness is that Sat Buddhi, which always is, permanently is. Whereas this pot Buddhi and the cloth Buddhi and the elephant Buddhi has changed, and therefore it is Asat. One very, very important point that you should know. Asat is that, this is a definition of Sat and Asat. Asat is that which is constantly experienced. Constantly experienced. And Sat is that constantly experienced and seen, but Sat is that which is experienced, but we don't know, we don't see it. So we don't see Sat, but we always see Asat. I'm seeing this world, I'm seeing my body, I see my mind, I see my intellect. I know, right? Seeing, not physical seeing, but mentally knowing. I know what thoughts are going through my mind. I know what type of intelligence I have, how intelligent I am. So whatever is seen, whatever is perceived is Asat. And Sat is never seen. And it is always experienced as I, but I think it is the ego. I mean, rather, I know it is that. For an ignorant person, that is what he thinks he is. But he's not. He's Asat. There also, that is Asat.
Jayaji, I had a question. If you isn't existence seen? I mean, seen, perceived. That is always available, right? Existence.
Yes, it is always available. But you always see the name and form.
unless the realized master will see the gold and the ornaments and the clay in the pot. So
do we see that?
Sometimes.
Correct. Sometimes, correct. When we are in satsang, when we are told, yes, sometimes we do, but always to be established in that fact. Without existence, the names and forms, how will they exist? The names and forms are dependent on that existence, but we don't see that existence. That is what Sat is. We are so engrossed in the name and form. We get caught in the name and form. I actually think that I am this form. This is what is being told. That the form that you think that you are is Asat. That I think I am form. So the shift in vision should be, I have this form, I have this body, but I am separate from the body.
Okay, thank you.
That's why this is Advaita, because this verse is telling us that what is Sat is always there. What is Asat is never there. It's never there. That is Advaita. Otherwise, it's Dvaita. Na? If this world is also there and God is also there, then there is Dvaita. That's the Dvaita school of philosophy. And that's okay. That is one stage of evolution. So they say that we are all children of God, Brahma Kumaris. They say we are all, which is okay, because they are actually positing that you should come back as a Satyugi soul. Whereas what is Advaita Vedanta? Don't come back. Don't come. We are telling you a point of no return. They're saying, no. You do good, which will lead you into Advaita. So that's why Dvaita is in the bottom of the ladder, though they are quite much higher than all these other people who do not even think that there is a God. So those who are atheists, who don't believe in God, who don't believe in the Vedas, who say that this is it, this life is it, this body is it, just enjoy, drink and be merry. No, they're way higher than that. And some of them, like, even if you hear Brahmakumari Shivani, she's right there on the top. I always look at her and I feel that's it. This is it. Next birth, she's coming back as an Advaita Vedantin and she is realizing. But she cannot realize, you cannot realize remaining in Dvaita. You have to realize your oneness with the God, with the self. You can't remain in Dvaita and do that. But in Dvaita, they're telling such good things. I listen to her. Like how to keep the mind calm, how to this, how, be good, be good, be good. All that is absolutely valid, but cannot give you realization. The realization comes only through knowledge, only by knowing this, knowing that Asat is always Asat, always Asat. It never was, it never is, it is not, is even now, it is not there, and it will never be in the future. And body is that, mind is that, intellect is that. All right, shall we go a bit further in this? Okay, one more point. We'll talk about it next week also. So the Sat Buddhi is also another meaning of Sat Buddhi, is that which supports the presence and absence. You have to understand that. So presence and absence are pairs of opposites. There is something is present and then there is nothing there. But even when between me and the screen there is nothing, I say there is nothing. So even there is Sat Buddhi. That point is to be understood. That there is nothing, there is no form, there is no nothing. Of course, I can say there is air and there's space, but generally I will say there is nothing between me and the screen. Or, I'll say there's nothing between me and the wall. That's why I can move my hand. But I say there is nothing. There is nothing. So that isness, which is the Sat Buddhi, supports the nothingness as well. Just to be understood. It's not just the form that is supporting, it is also supporting that which does not have a form. Any questions? I know it's actually, I think it's easy, but that's me. That's different. So, anybody's having any difficulty understanding this? Please tell me. Neil, I think your phone is like, so we see you like this. That's okay. Any questions? I'm not going to go into the next verse. Yeah.
I think in so many words, we have been able to sort of define the asat part of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the very few descriptive definition of sat part of it. So if you could probably expand on that, if this session or next, that would be appreciated.
In Vivek Churamani, the sat was, that's what we are going through from verse 124 to 135.
Okay.
Because, okay, that's one thing, you can refer to those verses. But even in here, what you have to understand is that buddhi which does not change, because sat is only one, understand. Okay, the reason that there are many descriptions for asat is because asat, there's a lot of asat. Sat is only one. There is only one. And it is uncomparable. So we cannot even give like, oh, like this sat is like this, like that. We cannot even give that. Even when we say clay, it's not really clay. I remember I was listening long time ago. Guruji's lecture was there in Bombay. The hall was full, there's a huge crowd. And he gave us the example of electricity and appliance. And in that example, he just said, so do you think that electricity is conscious? And more than half the people said yes. Because you see, the comparison was electricity is sat, appliance is asat. So everybody, I said, no. Example, both of them are asat. When we give example, see, clay is asat too, okay? Gold is asat too. Electricity is asat too. It's not conscious. It's not the conscious principle. But we give that example so that we can understand what, like we say, electricity is one, many appliances. Gold is only one, many ornaments. Clay is only one, many forms. That way, the sat is only one. There is only one sat. That's why there's a saying in Sanskrit, one sat, but the wise men talk about it in different ways. Forms are many forms, and because forms are many, names are also many. But sat is only one. That's only the isness part of it.
Jayaji, I mean, so again, probably what happens is through these discussions at the form level, it becomes clear that the changing piece is asat. I think at intellectual level, it becomes slightly not so perceivable. Probably that's where I am sort of going to. So sat and asat. Asat part, we have been giving examples of pot, clay, and then we say, and the isness part is where. But now we have to also think in terms of. I mean, again, at the end of the day, we say that all of us are stardust, right? So technically, if I go at the level of atoms, all of the entire universe is same technically, right? So that's where you can go to that core or most abstract form of the question. But the point is, I want to take that same discussion. At the intellectual level, right? Because at the end of the day, the cup that I have in front of me is different from who I am, right? So at element level, probably same, but at intellectual level, there is this difference. And that is where the sat needs to be sort of abstracted, which is what is probably missing. So,
okay. One thing you have to understand is that sat is beyond the intellect.
Okay.
Sat is not, you cannot intellectually, you can understand it, but it is beyond the intellect. It is because of which the intellect is functioning. I've given you the example of the flashlight. The battery, it is the battery which is allowing the flashlight to illumine everything in the room. So the flashlight cannot illumine the battery. So this sat is that which is supporting the intellect to understand the examples that we are giving. So to know Sat is to become Sat. You cannot know it. That's why this has to be understood by the correct means of knowledge. That's why we say means. So eyes, the senses are absolutely not the correct means of knowledge to understand, to know Sat, because the senses, Sat cannot be perceived. See, you can perceive the pot. Do you perceive the isness or do you know it in your head? Isness you're not perceiving. What you're perceiving is the form. That's why we start with clay and pot. That's why we have not started with isness. What did we say? In pot and clay, clay is real, pot is false. Both are perceived, right? Clay is perceived, pot is perceived. So that's where we start. And then we go into there is pot, there is cloth. Then we go into the isness. Now we are beyond the clay part. And that isness is intellectually we understand it, because we always say that this is this, this is this, this is this. So the isness intellectually we know, but to actually know Sat, because the existence part, see the one thing that, okay, don't you know that you're existing? If I ask you, are you existing? What is going to be your answer?
Yes.
Yes, correct. Now I ask you, what are you existing as? Then what will be your answer?
The form of me.
Okay. That is what you think is Sat. That's what we are trying to tell you, that what you think of yourself as this form, that form is Asat. Why? Why? Because before birth it was not available. After death it is not going to be available. Okay. Now, what is supporting that form?
The intellect, the Atma.
Conscious principle is supporting the
Atma.
form.
Yeah. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Conscious principle. So in the form and that substratum, so that's why we call that as the substratum. What is supporting the form is the substratum. The substratum is Sat, the form is Asat. So if we were to go back to our favorite rope and snake, the snake I see. That's why I said to you, what is perceived, what is seen is Asat, because I see the snake and I don't see the rope at that point. Or mirage waters. But who is supporting the snake? How did I even see the snake? Because of the rope. Suppose if the rope was not there in the corner at all, will I suddenly see a snake?
No.
An illusion is that, falsity is that which needs the support of reality. If you want to see a film, you have to have the screen. So the screen is real, the film is Asat. You get it? So the mirage water is false, though I see it. I see it. And I run towards it because I'm very thirsty. I'm walking in the hot sun and I'm like, oh my God, thank God there is water. And then I come to realize that there is only sand and the water is false. Right? So what is seen? False is that which is seen, which is experienced, and truth is that which is never seen. And even though I experience the truth all the time, I have a misconception of that truth. I know that I am, but I think that I am the body, mind, and intellect. What I have to do is shift my vision that I am not the body, I have a body. I have a mind, and that's why I've told you I am separate from the mind. Therefore, I can feed thoughts into the mind. I can tame the mind. Why? Because it is something other than me. Like you tame a dog, you train a, how do you train a dog? That dog is not you. That dog is separate and you are separate. That's why you can train the dog. Treat the mind like that. Mind is a monkey. It's not called as a dog, it's called as a monkey because it jumps from here and there. And the monkey can be trained too. Tigers and lions are being tamed, right? In the zoo. So the mind also is like that, and mind is even more powerful than a tiger and a lion. It will eat you. Mind will eat you day and night. It will eat you. watch if you have any guilt feelings, this feelings, that will, anyway, we're going over time. We will continue with this. If there are any questions, you can write to me or let Dinesh know, and we'll answer them. And okay, because time is up now, the other classes.
Thank you, Jayaji.
So think about this verse again. I told you this is it, and it'll get easier after this. Okay, so don't worry. And you asked about the description of Sat, right? It'll come again in this as well. Okay, all right. So I'm going to close now.